You have been working as an automation specialist,
Hmm.
right, at Dynamo. So could you tell me like how did that happen again, actually finding a niche for yourself in that industry? Because I know that BIM has been on the booming edge for the last decade or something, but still even within that domain, finding your own niche as a specialist, as an automation specialist, is very interesting.
I mean, the way you described it, that is exactly the case. It is a niche field within BIM, and I wanted to find my own niche. How automation helps is one that everyone knows is it saves time. So everyone
Okay.
knows that if you do something and compare it with computers doing it, computers can do a lot of stuff much faster. But what
Okay.
most people tend not to see is that the quality that the output gives. If a human is doing something for 100 times and there's a chance of him making a mistake once, if you do it 1,000 times, you still have probability of making a mistake 10 times. So as long as
Mhm.
you give the inputs correctly, computer does not make mistakes. So that is
Mhm.
why it is wise to automate everything that you're doing repetitively. I
Yeah.
have a mantra like this: if you're doing something for more than 5 minutes and you're doing it more than 5 times a day, you'll better automate it. If not, you'll be spending more time doing laborious tasks instead of doing creative tasks.
Hello all, I'm Anusha, ex-BIM architect and a senior program associate at Novatr. We at Novatr are on a mission to build people who build a better tomorrow by empowering AEC professionals with relevant skills to create innovative and impactful futures. Through Novatr Stories, we get to explore unique career paths of our AEC professionals where they get to share their triumphs, challenges, and the lessons that they have learned along the journey. So, today, as part of it, we have the privilege to host Mohamed Sabith, who is a BIM engineer turned automation specialist. He hails from the city Chennai, Tamil Nadu, from India, who has done his Bachelor's of Civil Engineering from the Crescent Institute of Science and Technology. He has been working in the field of BIM for the past 4 years with the firms like Covi and Rambol. So, with no further ado, let's welcome him and listen to what he has to share about his insightful professional and personal journey. So, welcome, Sabit.
How are you?
Hi Anusha, glad to be here. Always a pleasure to meet with Novator guys.
Yeah, and I know that we have been working like since a year and a half for the last couple of courses. Like we
Yeah,
worked with BIM Civil, and currently I think you're also leading with BIM Archi. But again, as part of the series, we are not to just talk about that, but we are here to know more about you as who Mohammad Sabit is and what is his journey has been personally and professionally. So, Sabit, so if we have to get started, if you can let us know how it has been for you, like if you have to reflect back the beginning of the journey, where would you start your story from?
sure, happy to share it. I mean, I wasn't that of a visionary to be, always wanting to be a civil engineer. That is not the case. I decided to be a civil engineer only after I graduated my high school.
Mm-hmm.
During my childhood days, I wanted to do something creative. Like I said, I've been good with technology. I even built, a laser security system while I was a kid, like around in my seventh grade or something like that.
Wow, how did
So
you do that?
YouTube, nothing else. So everything that you want to learn is available online. So there is
Yeah.
no, limit of resources on available online. So it was all open source technology. I bought some electronics from a nearby, a store. Took some money from my grandfather because my father wouldn't give it to me because he was sure that I wasn't knowing what I'm doing. So took some money
Mm-hmm.
from my grandfather and bought some equipments and built it just by watching YouTube. So
Mm-hmm.
that was fun. This was for actually one of my science exhibitions at my school. So they
Okay.
conduct this annual science exhibition whereby we can do stuff like this. And usually people, what they do is they'll make experiments like potato electricity and then potato clock, something like that. I wanted to do something different. The funny thing is that I didn't want. The problem
Mm-hmm.
is that people didn't believe that it was actually something I did. They thought that I bought it from someone else, so they disqualified me. So that was
Okay.
a bummer. But it intrigued, that interest of building stuff on my own and the interest in technology. I have always had that. So
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to do something creative, like I said. And then when I actually graduated from my high school, looking at what are the options I had, one of the inspirations I had was my father. So he was a mechanical engineer, but he works in the building domain. He's into
Okay.
MEP, mechanical equipment installation in buildings. So I had a good
Okay.
idea about construction. Not a good idea, I would say. Some idea, a decent idea about constructions, and that is something that I've always been intrigued by. So that is when I, got into the decision of making that okay, civil engineering is something that I can do. And
Mhm.
after joining civil engineering, I think I made a really good decision because only after taking civil engineering, I got to know that okay, this is something I'm good at, and this is what I should be doing. So I think
Mhm.
things worked out pretty well for me on that front.
So, in a way, let's say that you got inspired from your father.
Yes, I can say that. So he's
Okay.
the inspiration behind engineering. Apart
Okay.
from him, I didn't know much of engineering, so he's the front that gave me an idea about what is engineering and what sort of problems do engineers solve and stuff like that. Yes,
Great. And let's say, where have you done your engineering from? How has your college life has been?
yes,
The early years of your college life. Anything that you wanna share insightful about them?
absolutely. My college life is actually interesting part. The reason is I wasn't a very studious person in my school days. I mean, I
Okay.
was like I said, I was creative, I was good with technology, all that, but I wasn't the bookworm type. So I
Okay.
didn't perform that well in my high school. But then when I actually joined the college, things turned out starting turning out well. But at the first year, it was basically basics of physics, chemistry, all that stuff, which is basically the same stuff we read in high school. So I
Okay.
didn't do well there either. But then
Mm-hmm.
after the second, third, and fourth year, when we actually started learning about civil engineering, I started picking up. And by the time I graduated, I was the university second. So barely missed that part, partly because of the first semester.
Okay.
So, anyways, so that went well. And overall, my college days is when I actually, like I said, realized that engineering is something that I like and I wanted to do. So
Mm-hmm.
my college, the college that I studied was Crescent Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. So it is
Okay.
a deemed university. So their rules were pretty, flexible. They are not a very strict college, and
Mm-hmm.
we took the best advantage of that.
Okay.
So to some extent, during our final project years, when we do the final year project, I had the lab key with me for the actual civil engineering lab, the computer technology lab with me, so
Okay.
that we can go inside the lab even before the college starts and the day
Mm-hmm.
ends. So the college was very supportive. I think my college was one of the 4 years of my civil engineering BTech was one of the most transformative years for me. So I think that should I don't want to promote my college or anything, but that is really place and duration that played a big role in my life.
Yeah, I believe that, it's always definitely a little nostalgic to think about
Exactly.
all of those years, being as a student and especially your undergrad.
Yes, because it
But
helped me realize more about myself than I actually me recognize realizing stuff about engineering. It helped me realize about myself, what I'm good at, what I like doing, and
mhm,
basically, it is. I found myself a better version of myself at those 4 years. So
okay,
my 4 years is the college 4 years is really special to me.
yeah, very glad to hear that again. And let's say during these 4 years of college,
Mm,
how was your thought process then? Because if again, I'm an architect, I don't know much about civil engineering, but it's only that we always work together.
mm,
But then they usually keep sharing those thoughts that they had initially, like we never thought we would work with a company, or we never thought we would
yeah.
work at a desk job, because they do a lot of site coordination, which is so significant work.
Mm.
But then I have also seen people who are not very proud of what they do, like very less people that I have met who are not very proud of what they do. So I think when you were studying, let's say in that 4 years, did you have that question or clouded thoughts? What would happen next? How do, like, I know that you have said you are very interested with technology and
Mm.
everything. So, how did you make yourself get there?
I mean, it was always there was always this looming fear about what will we do after graduation. So I think that's
Yeah.
common for every engineer. But during those first couple of years, or even the third year, I was pretty comfortable. I was looking forward to the next day to learn what I can, to know what I can learn today. So that was always there. It was during these last couple of semesters, that's when I thought about actually worrying about what should I do about my career. What's
Mm-hmm.
sort of, I wouldn't say call it a worry. I was
Mm-hmm.
quite confident that okay, things will turn out well, but I wasn't sure exactly which path to take. So it was like more
Okay.
of an anxiety or I mean, even that is a stretch. I was pretty comfortable at my college, to be honest. I was
Right.
not even worried about placements. The only situation where I got where we got worried is that civil engineering and how the placements situations are there,
I've
and
heard. Yeah.
exactly. And looking at
Mm-hmm.
your fellow CSE students and IT classmates getting placements for huge packages, and
Yeah.
us not even getting companies coming to visit. So that gave us a little bit of anxiety. But
Yeah.
fortunately, I was able to secure a job even before I graduated. So even that part kind of played out well. But
Okay.
yes, so during my college days, like I said, it was a pretty smooth ride, I would say. So the experiments that we had to make during our lab hours, the projects that we had to do. The one of the big parts about my college is that for my final year project, we got our dean. School of Infrastructure has a dean, so we had him as our project guide. So
Okay.
deans do not usually take up bachelor projects; they take only master's projects. So this
Mm-hmm.
was a unique case that we had. So I had a lot to learn from him, and that actually played a big role in my actual overall career prospects. So
Okay.
got a lot of contacts with IIT Madras people because he had a lot of contacts with IIT Madras.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to visit IIT Madras for a lot of workshops and stuff like that. And my
Okay.
first ever job that was not in BIM technically. So I joined as a structural engineer, but that job
Okay.
actually I got from one of my contacts through IIT Madras. So I
Okay.
knew a project officer there. So he was my first boss. I'm very grateful
Okay.
to him as well. So I knew
Yeah.
him from my visits to IIT Madras, and he actually came to our college to conduct a workshop. That is when we
Okay.
actually met him. So that workshop was actually about StatPro.
Okay.
So we learned StatPro from him, and that's how I knew. And when they conducted programs at IIT Madras, he would invite me, and we'll be visiting there. So that's how we knew there. And then, of course, I graduated. By the way, I graduated in 2020, the ever famous Corona year. So
Yeah.
we didn't get the opportunity to complete our project back then.
Mm-hmm.
So at the mid of February 2020, we had to close the project and go back home because lockdown happened. So
Mm-hmm.
that is when he approached me with the job offer. Although I didn't graduate, he had the trust in me to offer me a part-time role and work as a structural engineer at his company. So there I joined, worked as a structural engineer, and then there actually I tried to implement many BIM workflows. Because, like I said, I started already made up a mind to work in BIM, but this is
Okay.
something that came my way. And then once I graduated, I moved on to BIM. So that's a different story. But yes, so that during my college days, I got this always tried to I kept looking for opportunities. And
Okay.
this is one of the opportunities that I managed to find and make good use of. If you think about it, this one interaction actually paved way for me to a job. It was just
Okay.
one workshop that I took in my second year that helped me meet my future boss and fetch me a job even before graduation when everyone was struggling to fetch a job. So I would say I was pretty fortunate and lucky in that case.
Yeah. I am glad that everything worked out for you very
Yeah.
well. So, the couple of things that I have gathered from the conversation that you have just said,
Okay.
we were part of a lot of workshops or the societies in college where I believe that you started to network way early as a student.
Yes, that I did because I mean, I really believe that there's a saying that it doesn't matter what you know, it matters who you know, right? I believe that a lot. So I tried to build as many contacts as possible, but I wouldn't call myself an extrovert. I'm really bad at that. I'm quite an introvert. But for my professional, endeavors, I try to meet as many people as possible, especially from colleges and industries. So that
Mm-hmm.
is how I got to know many people whom I know today. And
Okay.
one of the stories that I know where I made myself an extrovert to get the opportunity is this workshop that I told you, where I met my
Okay.
future boss. So they chose only four people from each class to attend this
Okay.
workshop, and I was not one of them. And I wasn't able to make it up, but I wanted to attend this workshop to learn StatPro. So what I did was I convinced one of my classmates who was chosen to attend this workshop. I don't know how I convinced him, but I totally forgot that. I don't even know if I bribed him, but I was
Yeah.
very desperate to attend this workshop. So I convinced him some way and managed to sneak in. So that is how I got into it. And then this step actually fetched me my first job. So I was really valuing this network part. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, there were early symposiums happening in our department as well.
Okay.
We used to lead that. I mean, not in second or first year, but in third and fourth years is when you're allowed to take part and contribute. So I did that. Got to meet a lot of seniors from my college. So their contacts were also quite valuable. So it was overall, combination of both knowledge and network that actually helped me be where I am now.
Okay. And the other thing that you said, like, the first job, was
Hmm.
it like a placement that you got it from college, or
No.
is this something that you have applied on your own?
Or how much ever I want to talk highly about my college, they are they are kind of helpless in this place. There are not that many companies who are lining up to hire civil engineers from
Yeah.
college, so it was not a placement opportunity. Like I said, that workshop. That was something
Mm-hmm.
that the college organized. So that they did. So they wanted to upskill their students. So they organized this workshop where they train people on structural engineering and StatPro and other analysis softwares. So that they did. But from that workshop, I got the contact of the trainer, who's
Okay.
also a project officer at IIT Madras, and that's how I knew him. And then he offered me this job on his own. It was not something that
Okay.
the college had, uh, you know,
Yeah.
uh, mediated. It was mostly on my personal friend.
And I have always assumed that structural engineering is like a specialization, like a master's
I would agree.
oriented.
Yeah.
And then you securing a job in structural engineering right after graduation is something very interesting. Like,
Yes.
how did that happen? And how was your experience, like, on your first job working as in the intersection of civil and specializing in structural engineering?
My interest, I mean, my understanding of structural engineering was always there since the day we had the course called structure mechanics of solids in the second year. So it was
Okay.
really fascinating to see how things stand. In order for a thing to stand, how much strength it should have, how
Mm-hmm.
the load transfer paths. Learning about all this stuff was always fascinating for me. But for some reason, I never thought of moving on to a career in structural engineering. Not that I
Okay.
didn't want to, never thought about it seriously. But I was fortunate to get my first job in structural engineering because if that hadn't happened, I may not have taken a job as structural engineer ever.
Mm-hmm.
But once I took that job, that taught me a lot. Stuff that have not learned at the 4 years of my college. I learned a lot at my job because there I had to do a lot of work. And since it was a small company. I was the person who was doing the design. I was the person doing documentation. I was the person who is doing the drafting. So I was doing a lot of stuff on my own. So that taught me a lot. I was there for 8 months, but I would say that in that 8 months, I learned a lot more than I could have learned in my 3 4 years of college. So I think that is always the case, right? Learning on the
Yeah.
job, learning while you're practicing is always better than learning through books. So
Yeah.
that actually was a really crucial part. But yes, I was really fortunate to get a job as a structural engineer at the beginning of my career. And then eventually, when I moved on to BIM, the knowledge that I learned in structural engineering helped me a lot. Because people
Okay.
who don't know structural engineering and into BIM are more like, drafters. They are able to only follow instructions and create stuff out of the information that they give. I was able to understand what is happening in the drawing and why they are designed the way they are, and I was able to even find mistakes in those drawings because of the experience that I had as a structural engineer. So that actually gave me an idea of both sides. So in BIM, especially in the structural discipline, the workflow works like this. The structural engineers make the design and then they transfer the inputs to the modeling team, and then they build up the project based on those inputs. So I was able to have this idea about what is happening on the other side as well. Although I was not working directly with them, actually I got the chance to do that later on. But while I was working as a BIM modeler, I still had the idea about what is going on in the other side, which helped me become a better modeler in my own. So
Mm-hmm.
that knowledge of both sides really helped me a lot, and I'll have my first job to thank for that.
Okay. So wonderful of you to even. I think it is really nice that you're also excited to talk about and reflect back.
Yes, I
I
mean
can
I would
clearly.
say that it is always feels like what do you call? There is a name for this: imposter syndrome. So
Okay.
that it is not me actually who is living this life, or I didn't do anything to deserve this. But it
Yeah.
looks like almost everything fell in place, and I was really lucky to have this, and I was really fortunate to have all the jobs that I had and all the people I have met. So everything fell
I'm
in
sure
place
you
kind of
have earned it very well with all the hard work and consistency. But yeah, like how you mentioned, like you have graduated in 2020, which
Hmm.
was obviously the two critical years of
Yeah.
beginning of the COVID.
Yes.
So this job, which you started, was it happening within that time?
Yes.
Like, is it an offline thing, or I'm assuming it was there has been an online thing.
Yes. You know, the
So,
first job I
like,
had, I didn't have an office. So I used to work
okay,
from my home. I had to buy a monitor because I had a laptop, fortunately, because
yeah.
I used to do projects at my college days. So I had a laptop, and I used that for my job. But that wasn't working out. So I had to buy a monitor, set up a work from home situation. So I
Mhm.
did all that, but it was actually fully work from home. I never got to go to an office and work, so it was completely work from home situation. It is when I actually joined COVID that I had to go to office. Even when we
Okay.
went to office, those times during COVID days when we are not allowed to sit next to each other, so there were alternate desks where we are allowed to sit, and we had to wear a mask while we are sitting at office. So weird days. But
Yeah.
yes, the first job, the entire situation was happening online, and I got my job offer online. I did the interview online, and I worked online for the 8 9 months there.
Mhm. Great. And the other thing, like the first thing that you said, attending a workshop where you wanted to learn Stat Pro,
Hmm.
and I'm assuming that is something has led to your first role as a structural engineer
Yes.
as well. So, although I would really want to know more about Stat Pro and your journey as a structural engineering and from there on,
Hmm.
but again, I want to take a step back, like during your college. How did you get to learn the softwares? Like, were it a part of curriculum? Like, did you do, like you said, on today's age, everything is available on YouTube.
Yes.
So, I just wanted to know, like, how many softwares did you know then, and
Hmm.
how did your tool-based learning actually start?
Good point. I didn't have Novatr back then to learn Revit, so that advantage I didn't have. But
Yeah.
the introduction for me to Revit was from again a workshop that my college organized. So there was a company that scheduled a Revit training session at our college for all the students. So I joined there, and that was my first interaction with Revit, and I liked it. And that's when I started looking more, learning more about BIM. So
Okay.
if I have to pick up a point when I got to that decided my journey in BIM, it must be this point that I remember of,
Yeah.
right? And from that, then and there, I wanted to learn more about BIM, and I wanted to learn Revit especially. So during this workshop I learned somewhat, but I didn't know what is Revit, what is BIM at that point. So I learned
Mm-hmm.
somewhat. I wouldn't call myself an expert on that, but I did get a certificate for that. So I wanted to learn more about it, and that is when I learned more about online resources. So I took a lot of courses online, both on LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, and there were free resources on YouTube as well. The problem with free resources is that you wouldn't value it, right? I guess everyone can admit it. We
I
buy,
know.
yeah,
Please.
we start the courses, but we never finish it. So I had to force myself to make myself accountable. So I paid courses on Udemy and LinkedIn, but I think I put them to good use. I completed all those courses because again, I didn't have any classes to attend. It was COVID time, so we didn't have enough
Yeah.
classes going on. It was just I was attending online classes. So I was spending most of my time learning Revit and all that stuff, but it was purely online. And like I said at the beginning, I created a resume with the skills I needed. So I have kind of had a path to already follow. What are the softwares I need? What are the skills I need? So the first thing I mastered was Revit, and
Okay.
then I wanted to learn Naviswork, but there weren't that many good resources to master Naviswork. So I found some free YouTube tutorials to learn Naviswork, learned the basics, learned how to do clash detection, all that stuff. Other stuff I wanted to learn was Autodesk Construction Cloud, or BIM 360 as it was called back then. And unfortunately, I couldn't find any tutorials to learn ACC or BIM 360. Fortunately, it
Mm-hmm.
was not something that was expected out of a fresher, so I kind of managed it. But that is
Okay.
something I couldn't learn, but I still had it in my resume. But I just learned the theoretical topics of what it does, why it is used, so that,
Okay.
and that helped me in my interviews as well. And apart from that, I knew AutoCAD. I knew AutoCAD from my college. I think every civil engineer and architects know AutoCAD
Yeah.
from their college. So I wouldn't consider that as a special skill. But yes, that I had. And that's mostly it about the software skills. Apart from that, what I had to learn was the standards, the BIM standards, ISO 19650 standards, and then the BIM workflows, the different BIM terminologies. All that I had to learn through again online.
Mhm.
So the only course I took was basically for Revit. All other stuff was mostly available free resources online.
Okay.
So I truly believe in this online university. So whatever I wanted to learn, it is mostly free, available on online. Only thing you'll need to do is to put up the effort to find those resources. So if you're
Yeah.
willing to do that, I'm pretty sure whatever resource you're trying to find, it is there online somewhere. Someone has made it
Mhm.
for you.
Yeah. Again, thank you for sharing all that. So now let's say after your first job, with the knowledge
Hmm.
of your first work experience and the tools that you have, the journey after that professionally, was it immediately as a BIM engineer that you got placed? Like,
Yes.
how was the journey from there onwards?
I mean, of course, it was BIM engineers from straight on because I've been planning that for almost a year at this point.
Yeah.
So I was prepared for what to do at my job and what to expect at my job, and it was pretty much exactly the same way I expected.
Mhm.
So the interesting part about the first job, the BIM job I had at Kovi was that I joined there as a trainee. So
And
they
this was in 2021?
2021, yes, correct.
Okay.
2021 January.
Okay.
So they hire trainees, and there'll be a training period for 3 months where they will teach you. And this was actually one of the very key period for me as well because I learned Revit from online tutorials and the courses that I bought. But
Mm-hmm.
learning Revit at Kovi, the way that they use at a real job to create actual construction documents, that was quite different. So that also played a really important role in
Okay.
my journey in Revit and BIM. So it was a 3 month training period. During this period, they'll be having like 5 to 6 evaluations. We'll have to clear them. Only people who clear them will be offered the job. So that is how it was. I knew this. I was prepared for this. And by the time we completed this 3 month training, I topped the training list. So
Okay.
because it was an unfair advantage for me because I've been preparing for this for almost a year. So it was
Yeah.
I had an unfair advantage there over the other people. But
I don't see that as an advantage. You worked for it.
yeah, I would say that yes. So I was preparing for it one more year, more than 1 year. So I almost had a good idea about what to expect in the tests and what sort of questions may be asked. And I also
Mm.
had to, I got this chance to interact with the people who had taken these trainings before me. So I almost got pretty much good idea about what to expect. So that was there. And after this 3 month period, we got into full time roles working at real projects. And the projects I worked on, Kovi is a Danish company. So the most projects that I worked on were within the Scandinavian region, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, and countries like this. So there we had to work on multiple kind of structures, steel structures, prefabricated structures, concrete structures. So I got a lot of opportunities to work on modeling, coordination on different types of projects across different countries.
Mhm.
So yes, it was BIM modeling job that I got my first job, and that played well, I would say, in my career.
Mhm. So, let's say, what would be a role of BIM engineer look like on a day-to-day life?
That actually depends, depending on the type of company you're working in, depending on the projects that your company is
Mhm.
taking in. So, if you're a consultancy that does just BIM services, what you'll be doing is you'll be getting inputs from your client, who will be a structural consultant, or an architectural consultant, or a mechanical consultant, because MEP is also a significant field in BIM. So you'll get those inputs. All you have to do is make those inputs into you may get it in 2D, and you'll have to make
Okay.
them into 3D models, do coordination between disciplines, and create 3D models out of them. If you're working in a structural consultant company like I did in Kovi and in Rambol, they had their own BIM teams. So there, what
Mhm.
we'll do is we'll work more closely with the designers. The BIM team and the design team works more closely together. So a design team makes the design, and they'll be sharing us the models, and we'll make structural models out of them, and they'll revisit the design analysis that they made. They'll resize the members, and we will revise them in the drawings. And together
Okay.
we'll be doing coordination with other disciplines. So
Mhm.
this will be going in a circle. So overall, depending on which type of projects you're working on and which type of company you're working on, it'll always be this case. You'll have a base. It could be a hand sketch in some cases. It could be a model in some cases. It could be 2D drawing
Mhm.
in some cases. all you'll have to do is, most probably, as a beginner especially, you'll be
Yeah.
creating 3D models out of those inputs. And once you
Okay.
progress in your career to more, once you have a little bit of experience modeling, then you may get into coordination, where your job
Okay.
will be not only limited to your own model, but also how your model interacts with other models as well, other discipline
Yeah.
models. You may be
Mm.
working in structural engineering, structural discipline, and you may have to coordinate your model with an architectural model. And you may be
Mm-hmm.
working in architectural discipline, and you'll have to coordinate your model with mechanical models. Of course, you don't want your mechanical ducts to be going through your structural columns. So it
Mm-hmm.
is the role of coordination that actually sort out these problems. So
Okay.
that is what I would say a day-to-day job of a beginner in a BIM field looks like. You'll get inputs, and you'll be creating BIM models out of them.
Okay. And let's say, uh, beyond that, also, you have been working as an automation specialist,
Hmm.
right, at Rambo. So, could you tell me, like, how did that happen
Hmm.
again, where you are actually finding a niche for yourself in that
Yes.
industry? Because I know that BIM has been on the booming edge for the last decade or something, but still, even within that domain, finding your own niche as a specialist, as an automation specialist, is very interesting. So, could you again share more about that?
Sure. I mean, the way you described it, that is exactly the case. It is a niche field within BIM, and I wanted to find my own niche. So that's
Okay.
basically how I did it. And the thing that prompted me to look for something else beyond just modeling is the fact that the way we model stuff using Revit, I found there were a lot of repetitive stuff, inefficient workflows that can be improved. I didn't know what was the alternative solution. I just knew that this thing can be done better. I didn't want to, spend hours and hours drawing lines and placing views on sheets one by one. So I
Mm-hmm.
grew tired of it pretty soon. So that is when I actually tried looking at other better ways of doing stuff that we are already doing. And there were a few colleagues at my company when I was working at Kovi. There were a few colleagues who were having experience in Dynamo. I used to look what they do, ask them questions, how they do it, and eventually I started creating my own Dynamo scripts. So Dynamo is my introduction to BIM automation, and I still work with Dynamo a lot. So
Okay.
that basically the whole basis behind my interest in automation is that I didn't want to do the what everyone is doing, and I wanted to do stuff in the most efficient and most fast way possible. And Dynamo gave me that opportunity. So at this
Mm-hmm.
point nowadays, I'm not working on modeling. But the problem with that is, even when I get the chance to work on modeling nowadays, my mind goes into how can I automate this. So
Yeah.
it's kind of moved on to totally that space at this
Mhm.
point now. But that is how I started. I was working on modeling, and then I wanted to do my work in a first more faster and more efficient way. And I found Dynamo to be one of those tools that helped me do that. And
Mhm.
I kept doing on that, and then developing myself on Dynamo. I took up again a few courses to master my skills in Dynamo. There weren't that many courses back then that helped me learn Dynamo. Now there are a lot of good quality courses up there. But then, like I said, I learned a lot of Dynamo, and the best part about learning Dynamo is that it is open source. So if you
Okay.
open Dynamo BIM forum, there is a forum for Dynamo. There will be thousands of people who are discussing issues on Dynamo. So if
Yeah.
I have a problem, I'll post it on the BIM forum, and someone, even the developers who develop Dynamo, will be answering it. So that is
Yeah.
something I really like about the Dynamo community. It is
This
open
is
source.
very similar to the Autodesk forum also, right?
Yes, exactly. The problem with Autodesk is that there are a lot of users, and there are equally a lot of beginners as well. There are more people
Yeah.
who are asking questions. I mean, Autodesk in the sense Revit, I'm saying. It is
Mm-hmm.
common for all Autodesk forums. The difference between Dynamo and other softwares is that Dynamo is open source, meaning
Yeah.
everyone knows how the software is developed. So the background of software, how it is working, the code behind it, everyone, not everyone, almost everyone understands
Mm-hmm.
it, so that the quality of answers you get will be much higher than compared to any other forum. I think this is common for all open source forums. I'm just comparing it with other, just Autodesk queries forum. So there you
Okay.
get answers probably from experts or the people at Autodesk. Here,
Mm.
anyone who answers it is probably an expert on Dynamo. So that is
Okay.
something that helped me learn on Dynamo a lot faster. Like I said, I started working on Dynamo for my own work. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to make myself more, efficient and more valuable to
Mm-hmm.
the company. To be honest, that's what I was trying to do. So I did it, and then eventually I started helping other people automate their work. So people see me working on Dynamo and doing stuff, and they'll reach out to me to see how it can help their work. So I started helping
Mm.
them, and after that, now it is almost my entire work portfolio now is filled with Dynamo scripts and other automation tools. So it all started with me trying to become a better BIM engineer, and now it is I'm helping other people do their work more efficiently and faster.
I think that's the beauty of it, where
Exactly.
you are also at the position where you're also guiding and helping other people to do better and be
Absolutely, it is really
efficient.
fulfilling to solve problems. Solving problems for you, that is always rewarding, but solving problems
Mhm.
for others, that is really fulfilling. So I got the chance to do that through Dynamo and other automation tools.
Okay. And just on that thought, like
Hmm.
if you can give me a basic example of how automation is helping, like maybe a simple metric, like maybe the time, is it the effort, like what is it? And the other tools that you mentioned, other than Dynamo, what else do you like usually use on?
Sure. How automation helps is there are a lot of friends where automation comes into play and how it makes an impact. So I would consider there are two main impacts of automation. One that everyone knows is it saves time. So everyone
Okay.
knows that if you do something and compare it with computers doing it, computers can do a lot of stuff much faster. But what
Okay.
most people tend not to see is that the quality that the output gets. So if
Okay.
you are doing, if a human is doing something for 100 times and there's a chance of him making a mistake once, if you do
Mm-hmm.
it 1,000 times, you still have a probability of making a mistake 10 times, right? But if you're doing it with the computer, the probability is still there. But if a computer does 1,000 stuff 1,000 times, it will be making a mistake very very less times. I wouldn't call it even one is one in 1,000 times. So as long as
Mm-hmm.
you give the inputs correctly, computer does not make mistakes. So that is
Mm-hmm.
why it is wise to automate everything that you're doing repetitively. If I
Okay.
have a mantra like this, if you're doing something for more than 5 minutes and you're doing it more than 5 times a day, you'll better automate it, right?
Yeah.
If not, you'll be having spending more time doing laborious tasks instead of doing creative tasks. So
Yeah.
humans are creative creatures, right? So we will
Yeah.
my whole philosophy is that we should be doing what we are good at, both us and computers. Computers
Yeah.
are not good at doing creative stuff. I mean, with the advent of AI, now that thing is changing, but let's not go there. But in general, computers are doing multiple tasks at a faster rate, whereas humans are doing one thing in a good way,
Yeah.
creative stuff like that. So what I would preferably say is limit human efforts to designing and doing more creative works. Let it be engineering or architecture. Let let us use the human creative mind to do creative tasks, and let the computers do the manual laborious tasks. So that is
Yeah.
where I think automation comes into play. It lets you do what you do best and do the laborious tasks itself instead of hiring 10 people to do stuff that can be
Mm-hmm.
automated. You better automate it instead.
Okay.
Right, so that's my whole philosophy behind automation. Limit
I
yourself
think
to doing creative stuff and do the let the computer do the manual task.
I got my biggest takeaway from this conversation. I'm just gonna write down your own mantra as mine now.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's really nice to think of. And actually, thank you for sharing that. You have answered it in a much better way I was
No problem.
expecting.
Happy to help.
But yeah, thank you to clear that thought. And now let's say that you have, I think, a little more than 4 years of experience as
Hmm.
of now. And now that you have found your niche, uh, is this some thought like you want to do like an master's, or in today's age, do you still think that doing a technical or master's or a
Hmm.
specialization is still relevant, or do you prefer to work more on what you are doing?
I mean, there's always a personal preference to everyone's career path. So I
Yeah.
might prefer a master's way, some may not, and some I might not prefer something, and someone else might, and it might work for them. It may not work for me. Well, my personal opinion is that I personally probably won't do masters anytime soon. The reason is, there's the saying, master of sorry, what is it called?
Jack
Jack
of
of
all
all
trades,
trades, master. Yeah,
master
jack
of
of all
none.
trades, master of none. Right, but it's actually not the full code. The full code is apparently jack of all trades, master of none. But it is still better to be a jack of all trades than to be master of none. The reason
Mhm.
is, I mean, personally, in my experience, I'm not a expert on software development, but I do know some sort of C# programming, and I can create Revit add-ins. I'm not a web developer, but I can still work with some sort of JavaScript and create very bad-looking websites, but I can do it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an expert on Python, but I can still use Python to work with the Dynamo nodes. So I'm not an expert on any of these things, but I know some sort of all of these stuff, and that
Yeah.
enables me to do a lot more stuff than people who are experts in just one domain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So specialization is becoming more and more irrelevant in the current days, I would say. Instead, try to build a more wider foundation of knowledge, and then
Mm-hmm.
build expertise in one domain. I would For me,
Yeah.
it may be Dynamo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know Dynamo, but in addition to that, I know some other stuff as well at a mediocre level. May not be an expert, but I think that is how it should be. If you are trying to be a master at everything, you end up mastering nothing, right?
Yeah.
So master one, and then try to get intermediate level understanding of as many other related tools as possible. That will
Mm-hmm.
become, that will may become the foundation for your career.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for sharing that. So, on that note, let's say, how do you see the AC industry evolving in the next few years? Are there, obviously, there are so many tools, so many
Hmm.
softwares, like you said, AI, every day there is a new thing that kind
Yes.
of becomes a trend. So, how do young professionals or somebody who's starting their career as of today, let's say, what do you suggest for them and what do you suggest them to focus on about?
I mean, there is no one who can predict how future will look like. So predicting future is really not a good thing, but being prepared, that's a good thing. So how we can prepare for a future is that, especially in a future that looks, very what do you call, unstable and ever changing. What I would
Yeah.
say is try to learn as many things as possible and keep on learning. Do not get comfortable with where you are, because that is the killer of creativity. So once you are confident that you know stuff and you know everything, you'll stop learning, and that is really bad, especially in the current world where things are changing very rapidly. So the
Mm-hmm.
best way to keep you up to date and keep you future proof is to continue learning, keep exploring what is happening, new things happening in the industry, and also
Mm-hmm.
again meet new people, see what they are doing, check what sort of projects they are doing and how they are solving the problems that they are having, and what sort of tools they are using. So
Mm-hmm.
these sort of tools will help you be more relevant and making you more hireable. As simple as that.
Yeah.
So that is my whole take on how you can, ready for the future. Just be relevant and keep on learning new stuff and keep yourself up to date. As simple as that. Because,
Yeah.
like I said again, predicting the future and trying to do exactly one thing may not end up working out. Because if you bet on one basket, that may not be the future that you're predicting,
Mm-hmm.
and that may not be the best way to look at it, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So be ready for anything. Try to keep learning new stuff and keep yourself relevant.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And let's say now that you're also a mentor at Novator.
Hmm.
So was there ever, a mentor for yourself in your life, as personally or professionally,
Yeah.
let's say, somebody who has been guiding you or supporting you as a mentor in your life?
Absolutely. I mean, I really believe in mentoring and looking up to people. But what most people tend to get wrong is that they'll try to find a role model and try to find everything that they want right from that one person. That is the wrong part. What I believe is you can find role models, you can find inspirations from everyone who you meet. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't list any couple, one or two people who I think as role models or inspirations. I have a lot of people from whom I learn a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
that is how I think it should be. Because if you limit your inspiration to one person, you are missing out on many other really great people. So
Mm-hmm.
whoever we meet will we should try to learn from something from them that has worked out well for them. And even the other way also works around. If you find someone who found something that didn't work for them, you can learn from that. That will help
Mm-hmm.
you, going through the same problem and making the same mistake. So I have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of mentors, a lot of inspirations, and a lot of role models whom I have learned from, and I'm really grateful for them. And I try actively to pay it back. So,
Mm-hmm.
and Novita has given a really great platform for that. The mistakes I've made, and the knowledge that I gained, and the trouble I have gone through to gain those knowledge. I try to make the best value for the learners by helping them not make those mistakes and help them learn the same knowledge without putting that much effort or making it as difficult as possible. So I think that is something that Novator has enabled me to do, and I'm really grateful for that as well.
Yeah, and that's a very refreshing perspective that you gave about, being inspired from so many people for
Yes.
many different things. That's nice thought. And let's say, again, you have seen the BIM professional course for civil
Hmm.
engineers, and you have been an industry guide, and then recently you've also become a mentor.
Hmm.
So, what has your experience has been, and your thoughts about the curriculum that the course holds on?
I mean, of course, I was part of the team that actually helped frame the BIM for civil engineering course.
Yeah.
So I would say it is quite a comprehensive course, especially for people who are coming into BIM. So the
Hmm.
best part I would consider about the entire BIM civil engineering course is the capstone project.
Yeah.
So the BIM's civil engineering course, what it does is we'll have this metro project at the end of the course, along with many
Hmm.
other type of projects. Metro project is one of them, I guess. So that gives them overall, a good scenario for them to actually simulate a real life working
Hmm.
scenario, I would say. So if you know, I think you know that this course will be actually based on the ISO 19650 standards, right? So what they have is that the entire project is divided into 8 stages based on the actual ISO 19650 stages.
Hmm.
So it will be as close of a simulation to a real life project where we'll be doing all the workflows based on all the actual project phases described in ISO standards. So I think that
Okay.
is the best possible. That is the best, what do you call a feature of the course, I would say, because it not only helps you learn the tools, but also helps you learn the workflows behind those uh,
Hmm.
actual processes in real life. So when you actually go to a job, you won't find the workflows happening in those jobs to be new. It is something that you've done already once, and when you're doing it here in the course, you are able to make mistakes and you can learn from them, and that'll help you not make those mistakes in your real job. So I think it is this actual project based learning, I would say, is the best part of this course. And the other thing, apart from the actual course material, the best part about learning from Novator, at least from my opinion, is that the community that you have. It is the actual people who are actually are working in the industry that are actually helping you learn, right? So
Hmm.
there are no better people to teach you, right? It is the people who are actually going to hire you in the future. Maybe that can also happen. That has happened, right? It is the people who are going to hire you, or the people who are you are going to work with in the future are the ones who are actually training you. So I think
Yeah.
that is the best part, and also the fellow learners that you're having. So
Hmm.
in one of my cohorts where I have taught like 20 people, so there were people from like 5 countries. From India, there were one from UAE, there was one from South Africa, I guess, right? So they all will be sharing their own perspectives. They're not just students; they're also working professionals working in civil engineering industry, maybe in some other domain, not in BIM,
Yeah.
but they will bring so much of insights, cross-cultural insights into this group. So I think not only the fellow learners learn among themselves, I get to learn from them. So I think that
Yeah.
is something that I benefit from. I get to meet a lot of people. I get to learn from them. So I think that overall, it is this community of people that come together. That I would say is the biggest advantage of this course.
So glad that you feel that way. And again, thank you so much for sharing that.
No problem.
And we are almost at the end of it. So
Okay.
I just want to take the last couple of minutes and I have a rapid fire questions.
Ah,
Very
okay.
simple. Just trying to put you on the spot.
I can see that.
Uh, so the first question is like, what do you think is your superpower?
My superpower, I would say teaching, because
Okay.
I think I really strongly believe that I have a superpower of trying to has the ability to make complex topics into smaller bits of information. I think I'm really
Okay.
good at that. I've been told I'm good at that. So I think that is something that makes me a good teacher. And
Mhm.
working as a mentor at Novator has given me an opportunity to put it to better use.
Yeah. I think that's what makes you the best IG
Ah.
from our group.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah. And then let's say, what does actually success mean to you?
Success. Having no or little to no regrets, I would say, because
Okay.
it is what actually matters at the end. If you have
Okay.
regrets and you have got a job, you have got whatever you want, but if you still have regrets of not doing something or not getting something, that is not true
Hmm.
success. So I would say having no regrets. I mean, it's not possible to have no regrets. So as little regrets as possible, I think that would mean success to me.
Again, so nice to hear that. Let's say what's the one tool or resource that you can never live without?
Nowadays, it has become ChatGPT because nowadays I'm working more into coding, and like I said again, I'm not a full time developer, so ChatGPT has been irrevocable in my unavoidable in my daily work life. Apart
Hmm.
from that, I would say to be more generic, internet, as simple as
Okay.
that. Because, like I said, almost if you try to find the entire knowledge base that I have and try to group them by the source that I gained them from, I think at least 50 to 60% will be from the internet. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that is one tool I cannot live without, mainly because of the amount of information and the people that you can meet there. So the possibilities that the internet gives me is wide, gives everyone, right? So I would
Okay.
consider internet to be one tool or one platform that I cannot live without. I'm
Great.
trying to avoid it, to be honest, because becoming too dependent on it is also not good. So I'm trying to avoid limit that as well. But
Yeah.
as of now and for the near future, I would say internet is the answer for that question.
I think all of us, especially all our generation, is on the same boat.
Exactly.
And the other question is like, I think we have discussed this before, but like, let's to summarize, like, what's the one piece of advice you wanna give to the aspiring AC professionals as of today?
Learn coding. I would say that. Do not have to become expert on it, but again, everything is becoming digital, right? We are
Okay.
dealing with computers, and the computer's language is programming language. So
Mm-hmm.
to make the best use case of the tools that you're using, you need to speak their language, and it is programming language. Like I said again,
Okay.
you don't have to become an expert. Learn some sort of coding. Python, it's the most simplest programming language, I would say. Anyone can get good at it, not master it, but get good at it in a matter of couple of
Mm-hmm.
months, right?
Yeah.
So don't feel shy. Programming is easy, to be honest. So learning programming will make you a better civil engineer, better architect, better engineer. If you're using a computer to do your work, learning programming can make it help you make better use of the computer that you're using.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. That was very insightful. I think maybe I should also start coding.
You don't have to worry that if you haven't learned coding, but learning coding will definitely help you out.
Yeah.
You're missing out if you're not learning coding. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Thanks again. So the last question is, let's say if I see the phrase "build a better tomorrow,"
Hmm.
what is the first thought that is coming to your mind?
Build a better tomorrow. Okay. I think tomorrow's is basically, like I said, is unpredictable. So the best way to be prepared for tomorrow is to do the best today. So
Yeah.
I think whatever you're doing today, do it the best way possible, and try to help as many people as possible to do their best job. And automatically tomorrow will be a better day.
Yeah. Again, I think we are done. Thank you so much.
Great.
And thank you so much, Sabit, for sharing your incredible journey, how it has been personally and professionally. It's obviously that you are a person who has always been curious, determined, and very tech savvy, I would say. So I think that is the beginning of the future of AC as well. Innovation and technology is something we are also trying to focus on and build upon.
Absolutely.
And hence, that is exactly where I think we all, as AEC professionals, would also eventually get into. So that's hence we say build a better tomorrow. And exactly what you said. For that, we have to focus on today of what we are
Exactly.
doing, why we are doing. So thank you so much and for taking the time out and meeting for us today.
Thank you. I had a great time as well. Thank you for having me, and good luck to Novatr and you as well. Do what
Yeah,
you're
thank
doing
you so
and
much.
try to do it at a much bigger scale as well in the future.
Yeah, it has been a great time spending with you and getting to know your story.
Likewise.
We just keep connected. And even before sign off, I think any viewers, if you have any kind of questions and want to get connected, I think we at Support at Novator and even Sabit is very reachable. He's like you've seen, he's loves to talk about technology and BIM and civil engineering. So please feel free to reach out to us and get to know more insights from us. So until next time, let's keep building. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.